Recently, DICE introduced a new weapon to Battlefield 5, the MAB 38 or MAB 38 depending on how you want to call it. The new SMG has joined a class of weapons that already had most bases covered, so we'll have to do something special to knock one of the fan favourites off their perch. But is it actually any good? There has been a lot of discussion surrounding the MAB on social media, with many YouTubers undecided on whether the thing is OP or bang average. Just before we get into this review, I'll give you my quick summary on the weapon. It's pretty decent. A solid choice for a middle-of-the-road SMG with incredibly forgiving recoil, the potential for very tight hipfire, and decent versatility. Is it overpowered or the best gun in the game? Not in my opinion. It can be viewed as a better MP34 and a decent choice, but can potentially be beaten by the ZK383 and only excels at a couple of things, potentially being trumped by some other SMGs and not actually being as great as people make out. So starting out, how do you unlock the weapon? It's really not that difficult. Essentially, you want to be playing medic on outpost and get on the objectives as much as possible. You'll also notice that most of these requirements unlock on their own just as you play outpost, and it's really not that difficult. It took me a few hours to get from start to finish. The main difficulty can be finding a good server, as outpost can often be imbalanced, but don't worry about it. Just play, get on the objectives, and you'll have it unlocked before long. I'd then recommend trying to level up the weapon to rank 4, because that way you can get access to all the specializations in one go. You can usually rank up a weapon a couple of times around without too much trouble. Let's start things off with a little bit of background behind the weapon itself. The Beretta Model 38 was a submachine gun introduced by the Royal Italian Army in 1938, and was then altered, bringing several different variants during the Second World War. DICE have brought it to the game alongside the new Outpost mode, and that is something I'll discuss my opinions on later, as it has also been under scrutiny within the community. Is Outpost good? Is it bad? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but as I say, I'll get into that a little later in the video. So first of all, the MAB 38. I played a few rounds of Outpost and got this thing unlocked after using it at EA Play initially, and I actually thought it was pretty fun to use. The idea was to level it up to rank 4 as quickly as possible and try out the different specialization trees, so the gameplay you see in the background is either of a stock MAB or one with a few specializations equipped, and then I'll let you know when we get into a bit more of the loadout particulars, what weapon I'm using and what specializations the weapon has. I think the main problem the MAB has is that the SMG subclass has the Thompson and Suomi, both of which have a significant magazine upgrade as an option, whilst the MAB only has a jump to 30. I think that's acceptable, considering how easy the recoil is to control, and I'm glad DICE haven't found it necessary to force the gun to be the best in class, as sometimes they do with these new weapons. The MAB is good at certain things, but certainly not an all-round god gun, as some have called it. You might have fun with the MAB, maybe it's not for you, but there are some things that it really excels at. Probably the best thing about the MAB is the hipfire potential. If you choose to go for the left-sided skill tree, you can turn this weapon into a hip-firing beast with a 30-round magazine, but at the same time you sacrifice some of the more accurate aiming, downsight potential that the right-sided skill tree will offer you. With that said, let's take a closer look at the specializations you can choose from. So starting out at the top left, we have Quick Reload. This allows you to reload your weapon 15% faster. It's fairly straightforward, not exactly a groundbreaking specialization, but quite useful if you reload a lot and you're looking for just a little bit of an edge with that reload. On the right side, you will see high velocity bullets, and in my opinion, this is the specialization you should always pick with the MAB for specialization number 1. This gives you 10% faster bullets, making it easier to hit moving or distant targets. Very useful, as it will just give you that edge, especially with the server problems that we're having at the minute. I find as if high velocity bullets and the weaponry with higher velocity bullets just gives you a bit of an edge against everything else, and you'll often find yourself getting kills that maybe you didn't think you deserved, but it's definitely worth having, as it's basically a free specialization. For specialization 2 and 3, obviously you have to pick either 2 and 3 on the left or 2 and 3 on the right. Starting with the left, we have Polished Action. This reduces the accuracy penalty from firing in Hipfire, allowing you to fire for longer. As I said, the left side is definitely the Hipfire specialization tree, so that's not a bad choice if you enjoy hipfiring excessively in Battlefield 5. Following on from that, you will also benefit from an extended magazine, raising the ammunition in that magazine to 30 as opposed to 20. This is really useful, as quite often in Battlefield 5 you do come up against multiple enemies. Maybe you get surprised by a couple of enemies proning in a corner or hiding in situations where you might need those extra 10 rounds. It also might be essential for you if you're not the most accurate player. I certainly benefit from using an extended magazine on most weapons in Battlefield 5, and this is one that definitely is worth looking at. If you chose the right hand side specialization tree, you'll start out with ported barrel. Your weapon will recoil less horizontally. Very useful, as horizontal recoil is incredibly difficult to control, especially in Battlefield 5. It's a little bit random, and vertical recoil, you just pull down on the mouse, is quite easy to deal with, but horizontal recoil is unpredictable and can often lead to you missing a lot of rounds and finding it very difficult to track targets. Following on from that, you'll be forced to take barrel bedding. This improved accuracy in aimed fire when stationary will allow you to be more accurate if you are looking to shoot players at slightly longer ranges. I found it very useful for when I was trying to hold down an objective or a building and I was shooting enemies running towards me. Standing still, ADS'd this barrel bedding. Specialization is quite useful, and it just overall increases your accuracy. The final two specializations are as follows. Firstly, we have enhanced grips. This again is to improve your hipfire, as hipfire becomes more accurate, increasing the range within which you can hipfire efficiently. Essentially, another addition to that hipfire left hand side specialization tree, worth getting if you just want to hipfire this weapon all day. The right hand side will offer you the custom stock. This will offer improved accuracy in aimed fire while moving, a nice complement to barrel bedding that will also, as I mentioned before, improve accuracy in aimed fire while stationary, so it kind of covers both bases. Personally, if I'm setting up the MAB and I'm wanting to play for aiming down sight aggressive play, I would go for right, left, left, right. That will offer you both an improvement in ADS, accuracy, but also the larger magazine and a weapon that is good for hipfire. You could, if you're looking to just hipfire, go for right, left, left, left. Again, you will gain access to that larger magazine, but also on the final specialization, you get the improved hipfire, which again is a nice complement to that extended magazine. If you're looking for a weapon that is more suitable for ranged engagements, not exactly what I'd say this weapon excels at, as there are other SMGs that do a better job, but it can be used to complete the Mastery 5 assignment where you need to kill after 30 meters, I would recommend right, 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 right. This again is just purely for ranged ADS engagements. Not exactly what the MAB is great at, but it can work, and if you are again trying to complete the mastery assignments, it might be worth doing. One weapon that I haven't really used in the medic class, but I am going to go over and give it a go, is the ZK383. Apparently it is a better MAB, and I'm really interested to see what the difference is between these two weapons. As I haven't used it extensively, I can't really comment, but many have said that the ZK is just a better all-round choice. So if you're new to the medic class, or maybe you haven't used many weapons, try out the MAB. If you think it's pretty good, but I wish it had a bit more, try out the ZK. Apparently it is definitely a strong choice, and I do see a lot of people using it. So to summarise on the MAB 38, it's a really solid choice for a middle ground SMG. Some weapons are better at range, some are better in close quarters, but the MAB 38 will give you a decent chance at most things, with the option to specialise it for a specific task, such as very strong hip-firing potential. The weapon can be considered quite versatile and accurate, with the main trait of the weapon being that tight hip-fire, setting it apart from its competitors. Will it take over from some of my other favourites in the medic class? No. If you're one of those players that just likes to unlock the new weapons in the game, sure, the MAB is definitely worth it. If you're also one of those players that enjoys trying weapons that originate from different countries, in this case, Italy, it can be a great addition to your arsenal. As I said, not the best gun in the game, but definitely worth unlocking and having a go with. Now for my thoughts on Outpost, the new mode that has come to Battlefield 5 for a limited time. I think the idea behind the mode is great. Additional teamwork is required to ensure objectives are destroyed and rebuilt, as without that team effort, the game becomes one-sided and you start to get caught in your base. There are of course people who think it's the best mode in the world, and I personally would not go that far, but I also don't think it's fair to write the thing off as a terrible mode either. It tries to do a few things correctly, and many Battlefield players enjoy the increased strategy that it potentially offers when it comes to squad play and spawning in particular. I wouldn't say that the objectives require a lot of teamwork. Basically you run up to them and you arm it or destroy it as you would in Rush, so for that part it's pretty much the same sort of thing, and zerging around in a massive group of players and running up to objectives and destroying them isn't teamwork whatsoever. In fact, it's pretty pointless. But what I can say is the spawning aspect of Outpost does offer a little more strategy and tactics for those players that prefer that sort of gameplay. Spawn beacons are very important in this mode, and it definitely places more responsibility on the last squad member remaining or transport vehicles acting as spawn hotspots. We didn't see this much in Conquest, as you can usually spawn, and whilst the game will spawn you miles away from where you want to and usually in the line of fire, it doesn't have that option in Outpost, meaning that you really do rely on your squad mates and spawn beacons, as I said before, in order to get back into the action. That is potentially one of the downsides of Outpost, as many people don't enjoy running back across the map to get into the action or onto an objective, but we can't just have the same mode over and over again. I'm glad that DICE are trying slightly new things, especially with it being a limited time mode. If they do hit the nail on the head, as I think they've done with a few limited time modes in the past, when we do get access to private servers, we can personally bring those back and enjoy them for as long as we want. Maybe even they'll come across a superb new mode, because sometimes this is how modes are created and it could become a staple for the future Battlefield titles. I don't think Outpost will be a staple, that's for sure, but maybe it offers some ideas into what the community are after. That being said, the mode struggles with the same problems that has hindered many of these limited time modes over the past few months, and I will just get into those quickly now. Firstly, what is DICE trying to provide here? Is it an infantry-focused battle? If so, why place planes on the map? Infantry players are crowding onto objectives and all standing close to one another. This makes life very easy for an unskilled pilot to grab a few kills, and I think more importantly, the addition of planes to Outpost adds absolutely nothing to the mode. I'm not against combined arms in Battlefield. In fact, I think that's what Battlefield is all about. I'm just saying that in Battlefield 5, especially on modes such as Outpost and maybe going back to Fortress, it doesn't really make any sense. Look at Battlefield 4 and look at some of the modes there. When you're playing on Rush and you've got everybody crowded round, do you get an attack jet that comes in and drops JDAMs on everybody? Not really. Even if you did, the attack jet is not perfect at taking out large amounts of infantry. It can do, but it's not the same sort of carpet bombing meme that you get with the Ju-88 or back in BF1 with the Muramets. Things seem to have taken a turn for the worst, and air vehicles are incredibly easy to spawn in, drop your bombs, get some kills and die. I don't like that meta. I don't think it's very good at all. There are vehicles in Battlefield 4 Rush that can dominate the infantry players. Look at Shanghai, the first set of objectives. You push in the tank as an attacker and you can just completely demolish infantry players. That being said, you are at risk, and a good set of enemy infantry players will take you down. Dawnbreaker with the LAV, same can be said there. And I do think that there is a place for vehicles in these infantry focused modes, but the balance is key, and if you can't get it right, it starts to get very frustrating. Add in the large selection of bugs that we've had with the recent update, such as the stuttering, the plane sound over your head that just won't go away, the fact that I'm also having trouble with hit reg and hitting enemies again for over 100 and they're not dying, all of these different things, it just adds to that frustration. So if you're having a problem with a mode and then you get these bugs and glitches happening, it just builds up and builds up until you say, well, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to spend my time, my personal time, playing this game if I'm not having very much fun. As I said before, spawning is very difficult in Outpost if you don't have a good squad. Quite often people will just camp on the hill with a Boys AT rifle and you have to spawn on them and run across the entire map to cap an objective. I think it's definitely worth DICE Focusing in on the spawn beacons in this mode, it could be that spawn beacons become available to all squad leaders and you don't have to run a certain class. I'm not too sure. I'm just trying to think of a way to enable a bit more flow on the map, because what you want are players running to objective and actually capping things and playing the objective essentially. If they're running from their base into oncoming tank fire or an enemy team that is just zerging around the map in this big clump, it makes things very difficult. Essentially, you could just add a few more transport vehicles. A motorbike would be perfect for outpost, but we don't have those, or at least we don't have them yet. So let me know in the comments what you think of Outpost, and of course the MAB 38. Both are pretty fun. They're not the best. I think the MAB is probably a better addition than Outpost in my opinion, but many people do enjoy Outpost, so potentially when it goes, we might see it return with private servers. It would be interesting to see if it's very popular when those private servers do come back to the game. Thanks for watching the video. If you did enjoy, let me know in the comments, leave a like, and I'll catch you in the next video.